Now, it's precisely because this asymmetrical relationship is at the heart of our system that central banks had to play a role and to be independent. That's precisely why they were established as independent institutions, so that they could try and put a halt to the natural tendencies of mankind. As a colleague was saying, the central bank is the one who takes away all the wine bottles during the party. So, of course, we're not particularly popular when we do that, but we have to make sure that there isn't too much difficulty when there is a downturn. But, of course, the real conclusion is that you have to be active in both situations, upturn and downturn. On the IMF approach, I agree with you. I spoke about the international financial institutions as being the bedrock of the international system, and I agree. The IMF is really the epitome of the stable financial institution. And the IMF, of course, has all sorts of responsibilities, but I think that any global decision has to be endorsed through IMF. I mean, of course, there can be all sorts of informal groupings, but formal institutions have a role to play to endorse these decisions. I said also that we had to call upon all the officials and all the institutions to show their sense of responsibility. Well, the IMF is one of those, as is the European Union. As you know, over the last few days we have seen a consensus of the G4. It was a short text, but to the point, which everyone could agree on the 27, out of the 27 heads of state and government or so across Europe. And then, as I said, today the ECOFIN Council came to a consensus on the basis of this joint heads paper. Now, I think that all institutions, each and every institution, has to show a sense of responsibility. Now, Monsieur Le Sourn, I think you know what our position is on the Chinese current forex position. We have an agreement within the G7 to send a clear message to China. It is true that there is a relationship between the imbalances on the international scene and the current events. I think we shouldn't point the finger at anyone in particular, China or the United States, but you have, for instance, you have to look at the have a look at the general situation and look at it as a whole. Now, when we meet in the IMF or elsewhere, in the G7 or 10 or 20 or however many of us there are, we almost mentioned the disorderly unbalancing of global risks. Now, Stéphane, I never make any comments on the financial markets and therefore would not answer Monsieur Le Sourn's second question. Now, to answer Monsieur Pauli's question and your question, Thierry, I would say that what we are lacking most in difficult times, and it's a general statement of facts, is the fact that there is an insufficient level of trust. Each of the actors, once again, has to play, each of the stakeholders has to play their role and make show a sense of responsibility. And that is what we are trying to do in the European Central Bank, for instance. We will say, turn to our fellow citizens and say, look, you can trust us. You will have price stability in the medium run. And this means that, indeed, interest rates for credits, for loans in the medium and long run take into account this credibility. And it also helps us try and stabilize as much as we can and as best we can in a very choppy situation the current financial turmoil. I think that both in Europe and on the global stage, we need to show unity, saying that there is clear and tight cooperation between the major actors, between central banks, is vital. Having a unity in the European family, also in the European Union, is vital also. So I think the message is cooperation, coordination, and to have as tight and as close a cooperation as possible, both in domestic terms, regional terms, and global terms. Right. I think we've almost come to a close of our session. It's 6:15. I think, yes, that people are trying to make sure and realize that there is consistency in what the large institutions are doing and how they work. Now, I'd like to thank, first of all, Jean-Claude Trichet from the bottom of my heart for what he has, for coming here. And I think I can speak on behalf of each and every one of us when I say best of luck in your historic task.